There's a moment when a brilliant mind stares into the abyss of human existence and sees something most of us spend our entire lives running from. Arthur Schopenhauer, writing in his cramped Frankfurt study in 1819, penned three simple words that would shatter everything we think we know about happiness, success, and what it means to live a good life. Most people read his words and dismiss them as pessimistic nonsense. But what if I told you he wasn't describing despair? He was describing the blueprint for your escape. Picture this. It's 1818, and while the rest of Europe is rebuilding from Napoleon's wars, a 30-year-old German philosopher is about to publish the most brutally honest assessment of human nature ever written. Arthur Schopenhauer wasn't your typical academic. He was wealthy, brilliant, and absolutely convinced that every philosopher before him had gotten it catastrophically wrong. His masterpiece, The World as Will and Representation, wasn't just philosophy. It was a surgical examination of why you wake up feeling empty despite having everything you thought you wanted. Why success feels hollow. If you're someone who's ever felt like you're running on a treadmill of desires, always chasing but never quite catching lasting contentment, this might be the most important 15 minutes you spend today. But first, you need to understand why Schopenhauer called human existence a pendulum swinging between want and boredom, and why that pendulum might be the secret to everything. Listen to what Schopenhauer wrote. All satisfaction, or what is commonly called happiness, is really and essentially always negative only, and never positive. Think about that for a moment. He's saying that what we call happiness isn't actually a thing we gain. It's merely the temporary absence of pain. It's not the presence of joy. It's the brief pause between sufferings. This wasn't philosophical pessimism talking. This was somebody who had cracked the code of human psychology 2 centuries before modern science caught up. Here's what he meant. When you're hungry, you suffer. When you eat, you don't gain happiness. You simply remove the suffering of hunger, but give it a few hours, and you're hungry again. When you're lonely, you suffer. When you find companionship, you don't gain some magical positive state. You just temporarily escape the pain of isolation. Until you need that connection. But there's something even more insidious than endless wanting. Something that kicks in the moment you actually get what you thought you wanted. Picture this scenario. You've worked for years toward a goal. Maybe it's a career milestone. Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's financial freedom. You finally achieve it. And for a brief, shining moment, you feel complete. Then what happens? If you're honest, really honest, you'll recognize what Schopenhauer identified as the second source of suffering. We're dumb. Listen to how he described it. Want and boredom are indeed the twin poles of human life. This is the cruel joke of human psychology. We spend so much energy running from the pain of wanting, convincing ourselves that if we just get that thing, we'll be satisfied. But the moment we stop wanting, the moment we actually achieve what we were chasing, we don't find peace. We find there were moments, brief, transcendent moments, where the pendulum stopped swinging. where people stepped outside the cycle of want and boredom into something else entirely, something he called aesthetic contemplation or willless knowing. If this is starting to sound like ancient wisdom disguised as modern philosophy, you're absolutely right. And that's exactly why this matters more today than ever. Because there's still a third source of suffering. And this one is so pervasive, so woven into the fabric of modern life, that most of us don't even recognize it as suffering anymore. Here's what Schopenhauer saw that makes him eerily relevant to our modern world. Even if you could somehow escape wanting and boredom, you're still trapped in the most inescapable prison of all, other people. He illustrated this with his famous parable of the porcupines. A number of porcupines huddled together for warmth on a cold day in winter, but as they began, listen to this, the deep pain that is experienced in the knowledge of the misery of others. This is the ultimate source of all genuine virtue. And here, compassion is the basis of morality. This is Schopenhauer's escape route. When you truly understand that everyone around you is trapped in the same cycle of want and boredom, when you see that their difficult behaviors come from the same source of suffering that creates your own, something shifts. You stop taking things personally. You stop expecting others to fill the holes in your existence. You develop what he called compassion, not pity, not sympathy, but a deep recognition that the person cutting you off in traffic, the difficult colleague, the family member who pushes your buttons, they're all just fellow prisoners in the same jail. And in that recognition, in that moment of genuine compassion, something magical happens. The will, that driving force of desire and suffering, temporarily quiets. You step outside your own wants and fears and connect with something larger than yourself. This isn't just philosophy. This is practical life wisdom that bridges ancient wisdom traditions and modern self-improvement in ways that will fundamentally change how you see your daily struggles. So here's what I want you to do. Not tomorrow, not next week, but today. I want you to catch yourself in the act of suffering from one of Schopenhauer's three sources. Maybe you'll catch yourself in boredom. That restless, empty feeling when you've got nothing urgent to chase. Instead of immediately reaching for your phone or planning your next goal, sit with it. Explore what it feels like to exist without needing to be constantly stimulated or moving towards something. And maybe, just maybe, you'll catch yourself suffering because of someone else's behavior. In that moment, remember the porcupines. Remember that they're not trying to hurt you any more than you're trying to hurt them. You're all just trying to get warm in a cold world. Schopenhauer once wrote, "The world is my representation." What he meant is that your experience of reality is always filtered through your own consciousness, your own patterns of thinking and feeling. You have more power to change your experience than you think, not by getting different things, but by seeing the things you already have differently. This is just the beginning. If you're ready to dive deeper into philosophy that actually changes how you live, from Stoic philosophy to modern applications of ancient wisdom, then you're exactly the kind of person I make these videos for. Hit that subscribe button, because next week we're exploring how Marcus Aurelius used Stoic principles to rule an empire while maintaining inner peace, and how you can apply the same techniques to your daily life lessons